Hi, how are you? My name is Houston and welcome back to another video. I wonder if anybody caught the fact that I didn't ask how you were in the intro of my last video. It totally escaped me. But I hope that even though I didn't ask, you are still doing well, because it is a grave crime to mess up the intro. I can't be doing that. By the time you see this video, I will probably have ran my half marathon, which is tomorrow at the time of recording this. So I'm hoping that I can PR, but yeah, I wanted to squeeze this one out, maybe talk about my feelings going into the race, and then maybe in the next video I can reflect on how the race went and where I'm going to go from there. But for this video specifically, other than talking about the race, you know, we're gonna be gaming. So let's get into it. Whoa. Houston, Assassin's Creed, you're never gonna beat this whole game through a series of videos. And to that, my dear viewer, I say you are correct. But there is nothing stopping me from making like one, maybe even two videos while I'm running around, raiding forts. I'm in feudal Japan. Nobody can stop me. What if I didn't get distracted by side missions and I actually went and did the main mission? Wouldn't that be a remarkable thing? But before I get into the game, I do want to say that you guys know I love Stoicism, right? So I have the Daily Stoic, and you can't see it because I took the cover off. There it is. This book has been very important to me. Stoicism in general has been very important to me over the past, like, probably 4 years, 5 years or so. I really started to get into it and writing about it and all that when I got the Daily Stoic, and I actually started to like read the literature myself and not just little tidbits here and there on like social media and in newsletters that I subscribe to. And I got the Daily Stoic probably like 2 or 3 years ago, and I think that it has really helped solidify the habit and the thought process around decision making through the heuristics, or through the guide of Stoicism. So if you don't have the book and you're curious about philosophy and you like bite-sized philosophy, which is how I think a lot of people can get into it if they aren't already into it, then I highly recommend the Daily Stoic. It's just an amazing book, and it's digestible, like I said, which is probably the most important part, especially when you're just starting out. But more recently, and I put this off for so long, I got the Daily Stoic Journal, which is, it's the companion book, of course, and basically each day it has a evening and a morning reflection. These reflections have questions for each one of them, or each day has a question. So like April 29th is, what do I feel when I look up at the sky? Or what if I sought peace where I am right now instead of in distant lands? So it gives you an opportunity to write about the questions that are in the corresponding, or on the corresponding day in Daily Stoic. I think that it really pushes home the point that philosophy is a practice, and philosophy is something that, in order to live it, or really in order for it to be effective, you have to live it. And in order to live it, you have to practice it, just like you would anything else. Kind of like how I mentioned in one of my other videos, where in the same way that you train your body in the gym to get stronger, you have to train your mind in the day-to-day in order to become smarter, or become calmer, or to reach any sort of intellectual destination that you want to get to. So writing in Daily Stoic Journal alongside writing in my personal journal, just like throwing out random thoughts that don't really have a prompt, I feel like it has helped me a lot in going over my own thoughts, and just to ask myself questions. There was a point where I thought that using prompts was kind of cheating, but more and more I kind of look at stuff like that, like things that we would think is like cheating, as just ridiculous, because we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to come up with all the questions and all the answers and right away. But that's just ridiculous. I think that if people can provide great questions for you, and as long as you're not pumping those questions into like ChatGPT or something similar, and then just writing down the answer that the AI gives for you, like, you're probably, you know, you're flexing your mind, you're flexing your intellect. What should my name be? Shizuka, which is, wait, Shizuka means quiet. My Japanese practice is paying off. Let's go. A follow mission. Classic Assassin's Creed. And they say the games have changed. Come on, man. I don't write nearly as much as I want to, but to make time for a small reflection in the morning and the evening, I feel like that's a great starting point, because it doesn't always have to be like, you don't have to write like 5 pages. Sometimes all you need is a couple sentences. I know that I kind of touch on a lot of the same subjects here and there, and I'm trying not to be apologetic about it, but I think that I'm finding out that that's just my thing. I'm trying not to like feel bad about, I guess, finding my niche, or like finding something that I'm passionate about talking about. I find some solace in the fact that I feel like I'm doing some good. So I think that if one person sees one video and then another person sees another video, if I'm saying the same thing in both those videos or something along the same lines, then those 2 videos might hit 2 different people differently and at different times. You know what I mean? And if my end goal is to just help people, then I feel like that's okay, and I need to be okay with that. So that's one of the things that I've kind of been writing about in my journal. I don't know if I should keep everything in my journal private, but you know, I just like sharing, so I'm totally cool with that. So tomorrow, the half marathon, this is going to be the main test of my fitness returning. So originally left hamstring injury, and then it transferred to the right hamstring, and then it transferred to my right knee, and then it has been sort of waning on and off, or waxing and waning, whatever, in my left, like upper ankle or like lower calf area, kind of like going over into the shin. Like I think it's my soleus. But anyway, I've been able to hit my workouts, which is really nice. I'm definitely not listening to any of this dialogue, which is also just great. This whole video is just going to be watching cutscenes. Nice. But it's cool that I'm able to do these workouts, and I feel pretty good about being able to run tomorrow during the half marathon. My original plan was a 1:30, but I am looking more towards a 1:35. So that'll be a 7:14 pace. My plan is to run that 7:14 up until like mile 10, and then if I feel good, I can really like turn it up a bit, and I can try and I don't know, maybe run like a 7-minute or even like a 6:55. It'll really depend on how I feel for that last 3 miles. It's definitely going to be tough because while it is beautiful outside today, we're getting the classic Seattle treatment, and it's supposed to just pour down rain tomorrow. So that'll be really interesting. If this race tomorrow goes well, then I should be able to start training for the next race, which will probably be in like September of this year. So it's going to be quite a long ways out, but yeah, it's another thing I'm pretty excited for, because I feel like over the summer I can really focus on just like depending on how tomorrow goes, and like if my injury comes back. Whoa, I'm gonna die. If my injury doesn't come back, then I'll probably just spend the next like 3 months focusing on like just really getting stronger, and then the next like 4 months after that, or 3 months after that, on getting faster, so that I can try and run probably like a 3:10 or 3:15 marathon. Through this half marathon training, I have realized that going from a 3:24 to a sub 3 is going to be very, very difficult with the amount of time that I have to train. So I'm okay with that. I mean, I've slowly realized through working with my coach that a lot of these goals need to be looked at from a much wider view. I need to have more of like a floodlight instead of a spotlight view on each one. I feel like I'm learning so much about myself, and I think that even more than the training and even more than the times that I might get, that is the most important part about this athletic journey that I'm on. Becoming overly focused on the goal of a certain time can certainly warp your perspective of what it means to put your head down and just like train for something. So yeah, I'm really excited for the future and to see like what sort of things I can manage to do. Like, will I run a faster marathon? Will I do an Ironman in the future? Like, how much is really possible? And it's not just athletics, it's like with drawing or like animating, like one of my friends. How much is really possible? To me, thinking about that stuff is really exciting because you just don't know like where you might be in 2-3 years. Shit, dude, just 1 year you can do so much. You know, it's really funny the amount of controversy that is surrounding this game because it's actually pretty good so far. You know, I feel like it says so much more about the actual person rather than the product they're complaining about when they just jump from like thing to thing to be mad at. You ever see that meme of the dude with the MAGA hat on where like somebody's taking the microchip out of his brain and then like putting a new one in, and it'll be like taking the DEI chip out and putting in like the tariff chip or vice versa or whatever it might be. But for this, it's like Monster Hunter Wilds, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and then they're going to take that out and then they're going to put in like Elden Ring Night Rain because, I don't know, some characters like non-binary or something. Don't you think it gets exhausting for these people when they're just like mad at shit all the time, like this performative like reactionary bullshit? I don't know, man. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just can't imagine ever living my life like that, so it's hard for me to picture how other people could do it themselves. In the end, if you're that mad all the time about other things, I feel like you just don't have enough going on in your own life. Not to water down the definition of the word loser, but you're probably a loser. You probably just suck. And it's really hard for you to enjoy things because you don't even enjoy yourself. And honestly, there's a lot to be said about enjoying yourself and about enjoying the type of person you are, and if you're working on yourself, the type of person that you're becoming. Something I really like about this game, like right away too, is the fact that you can do like transmogging with anything like right off the bat. So you could be like, oh, well, I don't like the way this one looks, so I'm just going to change the look of it depending on gear that I've already found. I know that's really simple, but it's such an important part about a game with like fully customizable cosmetics. You know, like different headwear, different outfits, different weapons, or visually different, of course. Really love how when I pause, though, when I'm leveling up, and then I unpause, it just keeps leveling me up. But it's not actually leveling me up. It's just doing the notification because it hasn't cycled all the way through. AAA game, by the way. Bum, 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 bum. This guy's never going to see this coming. Look at just... I haven't played as Yasuke yet, but I'm looking forward to being able to just like brute force my way through everything. Because that dude is a tank in this game. Also, I feel like that it's worth mentioning that you don't have to play a game if you don't really like it. Oh my god, I can't even throw these daggers. I can't climb over this fence either because it has spikes on the top. I just wish that we had more of a culture where people didn't have to, you know, just grift. I don't know what the problem is. Like, I don't know why people do that. Do you think that the main reason they do it is because they want attention? Do you think that there's a monetary drive to it? Do you think that it is attention seeking at first, but then they're like, oh, there's a lot of money in this because there's controversy and yada yada, and then they just keep doing it because they simply can't resist it? Is that why? I feel like as somebody who's not in the business of grifting and is actively trying to fight it wherever I see it, it's partially my responsibility to help steer people away from it, to steer them away from taking advice from people like that. And I'm not saying that my advice is sagely or anything like that. I'm gonna be honest, dude. You look at most of these people, these grifter types, they're all like, it's always like the masculinity bullshit, right? But none of them ever have wives or girlfriends or a family or really like anything that actually like would matter to somebody who would normally be preaching quote unquote traditional values. It's kind of silly. Isn't one of the crown jewels of advice is to never take advice from people who aren't where you want to be? I don't think that's like perfect advice, but I feel like it's decent. Like it's solid. You know, there are a lot of people out there that are giving advice and you could be like, well, you kind of suck, but you did throw out a gem there, so I'll take it. But I'm not going to use that gem in order to become anything like you, because once again, you suck. Being able to sift through the bullshit and find the gems is pretty valuable skill. It gets like harder and harder though with how much we're just bombarded with bullshit all the time. But yeah, man, rather than focus on all the things that are bad, try and focus on all the things that are good. It can be really hard sometimes. I heard this wonderful thing yesterday on a podcast from legendary ultramarathon runner Mike Wardian, and the host Rich Roll. Rich's podcast is probably my favorite out there. He's him and his journey have helped me on my journey a ton, especially his book Finding Ultra, which I think it's just one of those books that changed my life. Anyway, Rich asked Mike how he's achieved all these things, all these records with all sorts of distances, and how he's kept up with training and all these events, and, you know, just an incredible amount of accomplishments. And Mike said that he was often curious why so many people would say, you're not going to be able to do that, or you're not going to be able to do this. Like, hey, after you get married, you're not going to be able to train as much. After you have a kid, you're not going to be able to run as much. And instead of focusing on the things that people always said that he wouldn't be able to do, he would focus on the things that he could do. And I know that sounds really obvious, but I think that when you have people around you constantly telling you what isn't possible, you forget what is possible. And it's not just, and like with earlier, it's not just with athletics or any sort of physical feat. That's just with anything. And it says a lot about the types of motivations and the types of people that you surround yourself with, or the types of info that you have coming in. Now, how can you ever expect to be confident in yourself in any way with whatever you're doing if you're always focusing on what you're not able to do? Yeah, it's realistic, and I agree with the fact that you should think about your limitations, but do not set yourself up to only reach those limitations, because you'll never get past it. Because, you know, if you're just focused on the bare minimum, then you'll probably never do anything more than the bare minimum. Maybe as we move into the new month, into April, you can really try to pay attention to the things that you tell yourself you can't do rather than the things that you can. Try to reframe a lot of what you're doing with that more positive mindset. And this stuff doesn't change overnight. It's like with anything else, it's practice. So keep that in mind, because it's really easy to just not get to where you want to be in the first couple tries, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's just not possible anymore. Damn, finally some combat in this video, am I right? Just cutscene after cutscene. A lot of people out there comparing this game to Ghost of Tsushima, which is fair. For me personally, it's going to be real difficult for any game that is pulling from this era or this historical setting to beat Ghost of Tsushima. So I'm going into this game just thinking like, yeah, it'll be an expansion on it. It'll be a new experience. If I compare the combat or the graphics or the overall atmosphere, any of that stuff, to the story of Jin Sakai, then I don't know if really anything's going to compare to that. I'm setting myself up for failure there. Like I said at the beginning, this game has been fun, and I'm enjoying the process of exploring the feudal Japan that Ubisoft has created. Assassin's Creed is a lot different than it used to be in many ways, but a lot of the soul of it is still there, and it has a lot to offer for newer players or just people that weren't fans of the slower stealth gameplay in the older games. So yeah, try and look at things with maybe a more positive frame than you're used to. Your life can really change quickly too, quicker than you might think, but also a little bit slower than you might expect when you start to do that. So I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Hope you had a good weekend or have a good weekend, and I'll see you on the next one.